Hello, hello, hello. It's Tori Howard, the real estate educator, here to educate you once again, back to give you some information, right? But it's more than information. This is something that's going to be a lifestyle, especially if we want to become a home owner. So today we're talking about how smart buyers use their first home to build wealth. And I know a lot of people think that you can't use your personal property to build wealth, but you can, and I want to show you how. So subscribe, comment on this video. Let me know if you have any questions about anything that I said, but also let me know what you think about the content and anything that you want me to cover, in the next videos or so. So let's get into it. So most people think that buying a home is the goal. Smart buyers know that it's just the beginning. And I wasn't a smart buyer when I first bought my home because I thought it ended there. I bought the home, that's it. That's all I need, right? And I learned some valuable lessons that I have taken on my financial literacy journey. So I've seen people in a home for 10 years and never leverage the equity. I've seen buyers use one property to change their financial trajectory. So it all depends on what you want to do. You want to be a squatter in your own home or a builder and a leverager of your own home. So let's talk about the difference. So ownership versus strategy. So ownership is just paying the mortgage. Strategy is building on leverage. So you want to make sure that you're buying in an area that's appreciating. Now, it's going to affect your taxes. I want to say that it's going to affect your taxes, but you want to make sure that you're buying an area that's appreciating. Like, for example, in Detroit, we have some areas that are moving 7 to 10%, 7 to 12% year on year average in appreciation. The national average is 1 to 5%. So if you're in that national average, you're still in a good space. But if you're in a city that's rapidly developing, you want to get in those areas that are rapidly developing. Like I said, your tax bill is going to change, but you want to go where the appreciation is going because the more equity you have, the more you can leverage. So equity growth. You want to know that your home is going to be able to grow in equity. And if you don't know what equity is, it's basically what your home is worth versus what you owe. So whatever that number subtracts, you should track what you owe from, or I should say what your home is worth versus what you owe. And then that's what that gap in between there is your equity. And the more you pay down your mortgage, the more your equity grows. And the more that and if you bought in an area that is appreciating, that's factored in. So you want to make sure that you are mining these areas. And then there are tax benefits. And I'm not a tax strategist or a tax professional, but there are tax benefits for owning a home in different. And now I know they've taken away some tax benefits from home ownership, but there's still other ways that you can use your home as a tax benefit. And market cycles. You want to make sure that you're staying, in the loop with the market cycles and understanding what you can do. What is your exit strategy if you want one? If this is not your forever home, you want to know, how much it would rent for, how much you can short-term rental for, how much it will sell for. So you want to know these things. So no understanding, there are uh four wealth moves, right? So the first one is buy below approval. I can't stress this enough. Buy below approval. So if you buy at your ceiling, you remove flexibility. You don't want to remove the flexibility. So for instance, if you get approved for 350,000, buy a house for less than that. It all depends on what suits your needs as well. And this is if you have it where you can pay that maximum, but you're not going in with really a lot of, room. But still, this is all relative to how you want to live your lifestyle. If you don't want to give up your lifestyle and you want to still do things, you have to buy below that. So if you get approved for 350,000, me personally, I wouldn't go above 300,000. But I would be shopping between the range of 250 and 300. And I know there probably is certain, this is in certain areas where, those are type of houses that still are, some great houses, because we have some great houses in the city of Detroit in that area. And a lot of Midwest areas do too. And you can even go a little bit, it's a lot of improving areas. You can go even the 200,000. So it just all depends on what you're looking for. So, and this is relative, like I said, if you're living in a state like New York or Florida, California, Texas, sometimes, you have, some parts of Texas, depending on where you are, on the outskirts, a lot of times in this, if you're closest to the city, and that's anywhere, you closer to downtown or the city, if it's going to be more. But if you're living in a higher income, especially New York and California, of course your limits are going to be higher. Like, you're going to be approved for $1 million house, and $1 million house in California is like really nothing. Um, and that's like that in New York. So it just all depends. So the second move is improve strategically. So you want to do cosmetic upgrades that make sense. Most people love the curve appeal when you walk up to a home. That's what they see when they first walk, pull up. Kitchens. People love a good kitchen, even if they don't cook. Master bathrooms. Always a good look, because people want to make sure that they have their own little sanctuary. They don't care about the kids in the guest bathroom. They want that master bathroom to be on point. And then the flex spaces. Like here in Detroit, we have basements. You might have dens, and some Detroit homes have dens and basements. So you might have those type of different places and nooks. The house that I fell in love with had a library. I loved it. But you have these type of flex spaces, so you want to make sure you're doing those cosmetic upgrades that make sense. And like I said, it's all about the return on investment mindset. What is going to give you the biggest ROI? That's the curb appeal. Well, the kitchen is number one. The kitchen gives you 50 to 75% ROI. The master bathroom gives you about 30 to 50% ROI. The flex spaces give you between 10 to 25%, depending on what you do to it. And the curb appeal gives you between 10 to 15%. So you want to make sure that you know those things, and you don't want to overdo things for the neighborhood. That's why I tell a lot of my clients who just bought homes, always look at the homes that's coming on the market and seeing the upgrades and things that they've done in their home. And you follow the blueprint. You don't want to overdo it or underdo it. So the third thing is plan your exit before you buy. So if this is not your forever home and you know this and you want to move on, know what it will sell for later, rent for later, short-term rental for, whatever that is. Refinance, however they, but if you want to refinance, and only time I recommend you refinance if you're gonna stay there, because your mortgage starts over. So unless you're gonna refinance in the early parts of your mortgage, then okay. But if you're talking about 15 years in, talking about some refinancing, no. You can negotiate your interest rate with your lender. You just have to know the verbiage and the things of that nature, but that's easy to learn. But you want to make sure that you understand what your strategies are for exiting at home if that's what you plan on doing. And then if you're growing your equity, that means that you'll be able to use a home equity line of credit to be able to do a lot of different things. So the other thing is think in a 5-year cycle. You want to make sure that you're thinking 5 years ahead. What is your appreciation timeline? You want to, what's your equity build at that time? Refinancing options. So, and then, if you want to do some renovations, your home equity line of credit options. Now, if you're going to refinance and do a home equity line of credit, you have to keep your credit score, in good standing. So you want to we're talking about 680, 690 at the minimum, but that 740 mark is always good. 740, 760 is always a good pinpoint to, if you want to get to the 800 club, keep it moving. But the 740, 760 mark is always a good, balance. Like I said, minimum 680, 690, but you want to get the best rates, you want to be in that mid 700s. It'd be great. So ownership builds wealth, strategy multiplies it. Let me say that again. Ownership builds wealth, strategy multiplies it. So you want to make sure that your strategy is on point and that you're using it to your greatest advantage, because you bought right underneath your ceiling in an area that's appreciated, so you already have built-in equity a lot of times, or you will be able to grow the equity quicker. So, like I said, some areas in Detroit are moving 7 to 12%. You got some areas in Michigan that are appreciating like in the 20s, in the high teens. So it just all depends on where you buy. So the next thing is why most people never build wealth. Well, like me, I didn't know. I didn't have the education. I didn't have a mentor to tell me. I didn't plan for anything. I just bought a house because I got it pre-approved. Emotional buying, because a lot of times people fall in love with certain things or certain aspects of a house and don't realize that they're house poor. And no exit strategy. Anytime you buy a personal property, you have to think like an investor. What is the 5-year cycle? What can I sell it for? What can I rent it for? What are the short-term rental rates? How can I add value? What is the appreciation rate? Always know your exit strategies. Always know how you can make sure that you're leveraging. Now, when you're using a home equity line of credit and you're going to stay in your home and you're going to use that for um, you know, things that you want to do to invest in yourself. You might want to invest in a business. You might want to invest in you pay for your children's college tuition, but there's scholarships out there. You might want to reinvest back into your home. So you just need to understand what that is and what that looks like. But you got to keep your credit score. You know, you got to keep that credit score at a minimum that you'll be able to take advantage of your equity. But you have to pay that money back. So you want to make sure that whatever you use it for, it's going to be cycling. It's got to be moving. Okay. So make sure that you understand that. So your first home shouldn't be a trap. It should be positioning you. So either your first home will be your forever home, or it's gonna be your catapult to the next level. However that looks like, however that feels for you, that's what it needs to be. So you need to make sure that you're understanding that you shouldn't get trapped in your first home. You should use that as strategy to level up. What do we talk about? What is the appreciation rate? What can it sell for? What can it rent for? What is short-term rental rates? And looking at the surrounding areas and what's going on in your area. So I say all that to say, if you have more questions, comment wealth, and we can get on a strategy call, and I can mark out your pathway to your keys. Make sure that you subscribe, like, comment. Let me know if there's any questions that you have. You can put in the comments, or if you are doing anything that you need to, you have some questions on about buying. Um, you know, reach out to me. My link will be in the description section, along with my Pathway to Keys link to schedule you a Pathway to Keys session with me. It's all complimentary. And I have 2 ebooks, one called Journey to Your Castle for first-time home buyers, where I show home buyers, first-time home buyers, how to go from concept to mindset, because your mindset has to change. Goal setting all the way to the closing table. Then I have one for homeowners called House Rich and Money Smart, how to turn your home into a wealth building powerhouse, showing homeowners how to turn their liability to asset, what I just talked about today. And I will have an upcoming book that infuses those two called Keys to Your Castle. It's going to be a workbook style. It's going to be an awesome way for you to get prepared, get you through the process and also afterwards. It's a great thing for you to have and a great gift for someone. So have an amazing day and make sure that you are subscribing and doing all of the things that you need to do to educate yourself. Have an amazing day.